Hello, 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 and welcome to episode 84 of the SheGulls podcast, powered by Albion Obsessed, the one and only podcast dedicated to Brighton Hove Albion women's football team. I'm your host, Duncan. As always, I'm joined by fellow Albion fans, Ben. Hello, Ben.
Hello, Duncan.
By Claire. Hello, Claire.
Hello, Duncan.
And by Aby. Hello, Aby.
Hello, Duncan.
I did it in window order that time, so that's why it's slightly changed for this time. But as of course, we are always joined by our producer backstage, Joe Sayers, who will be pressing all the right buttons in all the right places. So thank you very much, as ever, Joe, for that. Yes, we're back. 84 episodes in. It feels we're coming up on 100. We need to think of something special for 100, don't we? I don't know what we're going to do. I know Ben said he might get a tattoo of some kind, but we haven't quite decided what tattoo that was going to be, Ben. Any thoughts initially? Was it?
I don't know. Just one of the players' faces on my chest, sort of,
yeah,
Alan Partridge style, that sort of thing.
Not a seagull on the buttocks, or one wing on each buttock, something like that. Yeah. So if you've got any suggestions for Ben's tattoo, then do send them our way. anything that won't cause uproar on the streets of Brighton will be submitted and potentially looked at. Anyway, as always, we had a game on the weekend, so that is what we will be talking about first. We will also be previewing the upcoming game against West Ham away in the second part of the show, which will be audio only, so you'll get that later in the week. But for this part, we're mainly going to be concentrating on the game against WSL and just talking a little bit about the remembrance of Rado Vidicic as well. So I think maybe as that sort of started off the game, as it were, maybe we'll start on that too. It seems like appropriate to talk about. So obviously we had the news. I think it was the day after we recorded, if I remember rightly. Yeah, the last episode that we found out that unfortunately Rado Vidicic, Dario's father, and also I think he was. I'm going to get the exact title probably slightly wrong, but it was something like head of women and girls coaching, I think. Essentially, sort of, he was able to impart his wisdom and knowledge sort of throughout the teams, whether it be from the youth teams all the way up to the first team. And I know that he was very well respected. Everyone's spoken, very well about him. In particular, obviously, Chris Roberts stepping in for Dario has been asked quite a bit about him, and he's been, incredibly complimentary and talking about how involved he was as a mentor, as a friend. Apparently, sort of quite funny, but not necessarily in the traditional way. But I think we all know and love people who can bring something new to the table, a bit cool and unusual. So yeah, I mean, I'll go round you guys and just get your takes. And Ben, do you want to start us off? Send some kind words out to Dario and family.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's shocking, isn't it? I mean, he's only been here about a year or so, but I think he's he basically was much loved by everybody already in just such a short space of time. I think, I don't know, I didn't want to speculate obviously on what the particular reason that Dario had gone back to Australia was, but it seemed, Dario had gone home for family reasons, and everybody in the club seemed affected by it. So I did wonder if it was something with Rado, or Daddio, as we used to call him, occasionally. But yeah, I mean, I don't think I ever met him, but I think he just seemed to be such a really lovely guy. And all the tributes that had come out from there was a lovely video that Melbourne City put together, because obviously he was there for a few years before he came here. Well, actually him stepping over from the Melbourne City women's team onto the men's team gave Dario the sort of opening into management, so which was good. So yeah, so I mean, there were obviously people like, Rebecca Stott, who used to play here, obviously played for Melbourne as well, so knew him, and she was in this video. And Steph Catley as well, obviously now with Arsenal, been sort of through his coaching and things. So, he just was a really sort of big figure in Australian football, I think, as well, before he came up here. So, big loss. And obviously, love goes out to Dario and the family and things. Terrible time losing your father. He's only 64 years old, so you don't expect to lose a parent at that sort of age. Lovely guy, apparently. Obviously, sort of born and grew up in sort of Yugoslavia, as was in what is now Croatia. Moved, but he got a chance to play for the Queensland Lions in Brisbane in '88, I think it was. So took baby Dario down there, which is why Dario is more Australian than he is Croatian, even though he was born there. And been there ever since, and has just became a fixture of so many players' lives. So he's really going to be missed.
Absolutely. And Claire, it was a really nice tribute, wasn't it, before the game? Just sort of take us through that for those who weren't in attendance.
Yeah, I mean, I think the club did quite a nice job of it. It wasn't over the top. It was just a very gentle kind of message on the back of T-shirts, and then a round of applause to start the game with not the minute silence, which I think is more deserved sometimes of somebody who's put so much into entertainment and entertaining people. And I think, like how Ben said, people leave an imprint on what they do, and that's how they're remembered. I think that's the biggest thing. He will be remembered by a lot of people for what he did for the game, and for players and women's game, the women's game in particular. But at the end of the day, he's a husband, a father, and a grandfather, and that's the most important imprint that he'll ever leave. So yeah, I mean, for me, I found it quite emotional having my dad died of cancer as well. So it's not a journey that any of us want to travel on.
It's also worth mentioning, actually, there was also a minute's applause at the Amex at the men's game on Saturday afternoon, which was
nice
really nice
as well. Yeah.
Obviously, he was only part of the women's side of the club, and he'd not been here that long. But the club is a family, so we lost one of our own. Right? So that was a really nice touch, because I bet a lot of people in the crowd wouldn't have known who he was, but they still paid the respects to him, which was nice.
Absolutely. And from Dario's perspective, Aby, important that he kind of is processing this on his own sort of timeline, and that although we'd love to have him back, it has to be something that he makes a decision on, doesn't it? Not anyone else, really.
Absolutely. And again, I can speak of this a little bit myself, because I lost my father at a reasonably young age, and like Dario, I was in the same business. So your work and your home life are all tied together. So wherever you go with it, there's some people can go to work and sort of get away from their grief for a little bit. But when it's a business like this and it's so intertwined, it sort of follows you. So yeah, absolutely. He needs to take time for himself, for his family, and so on. But I think for me, it highlights that there are so many people in the club that have an impact on the players, that have an impact on other coaches and on the pitch, that we as fans don't always see. And just the massive family that is at Brighton, because it did obviously impact the team. And maybe that's why they came out the blocks at 100 miles an hour and didn't stop. Who knows? No, I thought it was a nice tribute. And yes, all of us will be holding Dario in our thoughts. I know some people have sent him messages, and he has replied to some of those, which is just incredible with what he's going through right now. But the thing about grief is it's different for everyone. We all may have an inkling of how they might be feeling, but none of us truly know. And it's very much a personal journey that he has to take. And we will be here to support and love him as and when he gets back to Brighton and gets back in the dugout.
Yeah, absolutely. And some people may know who listen to this podcast. Some people may not, that my dad actually passed away about a month before Rado. In fact, I think it was exactly a month before Rado. And myself and Dario are actually a similar age. So I think I thought it kind of right to reach out to Dario just via message, as I know a few other people have, and just kind of say that, there are other people who are kind of in this with you. we're all rooting for it. Like you say, we've all got to deal with those things in our different ways. I know personally, for me, being involved with SheGulls and stuff is a really helpful way of dealing with, you know, some of the things that I've, you know, had to, you know, come across over in the last month or so. So, you know, hopefully he can find, you know, some comfort in continuing to be involved in the game that obviously, you know, his dad was so passionate about. So, you know, like you say, we don't want him to rush back. It has to be a process. It has to be at the right time for him.
Yeah.
You know, it could even be at the end of the season. You know,
Yeah.
no one can know that. It could be never. You know, we don't want that to happen.
Fans need to understand that as well. That
you
know, I think, you know, like Aby, I lost my dad quite young. I think I was 26 when my dad died. He was 49. It was, you know, shocking situation for everybody. It took at least a year before I even began to grieve that.
Yeah.
You know, because there was so much other stuff needed doing, so many things that you as that eldest kid or just being a kid has to do to help the other parents, the other siblings, whichever. The idea of like going to work and caring about that was the least of my worries, but it was a good escape place. It was a place where I could go and just not have to think about things. And for whatever Dario needs football to be or not be, people have to understand that and be accepting of it. And
and we're there to support him at the end of the day with whatever decision it is that he makes. So, you know, I think he feels that from the little bit I've seen in the responses to some of the messages and stuff. I think he's feeling, you know, the love from across the world. So yeah, and as I say, hopefully we'll see him back soon, but it has to be when he's ready. So yeah, hopefully we'll see you soon, Dario. But our thoughts are with you as always. So I was going to say now we can move on to something a bit more positive, but it's definitely more positive than that, obviously, of course. We're talking about the game on the weekend against London City Lionesses, the classic 11:55 a.m. kickoff, as we are now. You know, can't just have it at 12. No, it has to be 11:55. You know, why not make it 11:57? Like, let's go really specific. You know,
and judging by the amount of people that were streaming in at 12 o'clock. The message isn't getting out that it's 11:55. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. So, yeah, I think they've just got to. I mean, we don't like these early kickoffs anyway, but this faffing around with 5 minutes here or there, either make them all 11:55 all the time every week, or make them all 12. You can't. It's just silly making them 12 sometimes. You know, and you get an email through, don't you? A bit like when you have your flight changed. You know, and they'll send you a text saying your flight's been changed or something, and you think, oh my god, what's happened? My flight's been cancelled, and they're like, oh, we've moved it from 11:45 to 11:50, and you're like, oh, thank God, you know, my holidays, it's safe. But you know, they kind of have to do the same thing in this situation, you know, which is a bit crazy. You get this email through, you know, kickoff time change, and you're thinking, oh, please not a Friday at 7, please not a Friday at 7, and they're like, no, it's just gone from 12 to 11:55.
Yeah. Or so, even better, put it at 2 o'clock.
Yeah. That would be the ideal situation. Yeah, that would be the ideal situation.
But we won't open that can of worms yet again.
We shan't. But yes, I mean, for all intents and purposes, it was actually quite an enjoyable game, I would say. Brighton, you know, were quite positive, which obviously we'll go into. But unfortunately, the crux of the matter is 0 points. We lost 2-1. Despite the fact that I think they only had one shot on target, which, you know, these things have got to be quite rare, haven't they? You win by 2 goals and only have one shot on target. So I will come to Aby first, I think, on this one. You look pleased. It's slightly disturbed.
The stuff me and Ben were planning on.
There we go. Yeah, what did you sort of make of the game itself, and obviously, you know, taking into account the result at the end of the day?
Well, if we actually put the result to one side, it was a brilliant game. I loved it. It was great fun. The atmosphere was back, certainly around us. It sounded great. People were getting involved. As I said earlier, the team came out of the blocks at 100 miles an hour and just kept going. I was watching some of the highlights earlier on. Chia didn't touch the ball for 8 minutes. she had to wake up from her little snooze to come and do something. It was the game was absolutely brilliant. I thought the players, individually and collectively, had a really, really good game. We just lost, and I was looking back at it earlier, and I'm like, how was that not a goal? How was that not a goal? How was that not a goal? And we had so many chances that sadly we couldn't do. But I thought it was a really, really good performance. And I would just take that over. I would always take a win, but I would much rather an entertaining, loss full of passion and vigor than just, we went 1-0 down there, our heads went and off we went. That didn't happen today. So, from that side of things, it was good. Yes, it was 2-1. I'm sure we're going to talk about all the goals later on. I thought we had a really high intensity. I think we realised how much we've missed Cankovic and how much we need that experienced presence in midfield to really pull everything together. I think if we had been the winning team, she would have been the player of the match, without a shadow of a doubt. I thought she was that good. And I thought Charlie had a fantastic game, down the side. Kiko just had Poppy at her own game. Lovely to see her back. But, Kiko had her at her own game. It was all good apart from the result. There's not really much else to say. They, in my opinion, London City did not win that. We lost it. And if it hadn't have been for that very unfortunate turn of foot from Minami, I don't think we would have lost it. I think as soon as they got that, and particularly as soon as they got the second one, they put 100 defenders in the box, and that was the end of it. If that's, I have to say, I do kind of feel for LCL. If that's the football they're going to watch for the next year or so, good luck, because it was boring. But in this case, they did what they needed, and we just couldn't find a way through. But on the whole, I was very positive about the performance.
Yeah, I think you have to take that performance, because I think that performance wins you the game probably 99 times out of 100.
Yeah.
It just happened that was the one time out of 100 that you don't win that game. Like I say, how can you lose a game by 2-1 where they only had one shot on target? I mean, that just doesn't, that defies logic, doesn't it? I mean, we know why, because it was an own goal, but how many own goals are scored in a game where the opposition only has one other shot on target?
Yeah.
So even that in itself is kind of crazy. We had more possession than them. It was sort of 60-40. We had 40 odd touches in their box to 6 that they had. I think we had nearly 600 passes with 85% accuracy, and they had sort of like 350 or 400 with sort of 79% accuracy. So we had them in pretty much every department. We had more corners and more shots. Admittedly, we were quite wayward with our shots. We had a lot of shots, but we only had 2 on target. So that kind of that's kind of leans into what we've been talking about before, isn't it, about the striker situation, which we'll go into at a later date or a later time, certainly. Claire, what did you make of it? Would you have rather had the 3 points and it been a sort of an Everton type game, or you're kind of the situation that we're in, where we're kind of in the middle of the table? Would you take these performances over, an unlucky loss, basically?
No, I always want the 3 points. I don't care how we get them. I want the 3 points. I want to be pushing for that 4th spot that the club seems to be. So, that's what we want. I want to see proof of that from the club. But if that's not going to happen, then I want a performance. And I think we got that yesterday. And I think we've had that in the last 3 games, to be honest. I think the players have turned up. They've done a job. Where it's definitely showing up is, like you say, if we had a striker on the game, somebody like a Keats, I think we win that 4-2, 4-1, easy. Maybe even 5. We were all over them. They couldn't do anything to stop us apart from put all their players in the box. And I think it was just that, having that lack of experience up top in a goal-scoring, poacher's kind of position, to be able to do what Cankovic did last week against Everton, which was just kind of tap one in sort of thing. But Yeah, I think like Charlie said, every single player pulled their socks off, and Chankovic 3 games in a row for me has been player of the game. We've 100% missed that. We definitely need to have some more experience in the squad, WSL experience, how to win these games, how to turn up and change that around from them being able to just sit there and defend to us being able to get the goal that we deserved, because we did deserve to win that. I'd be embarrassed if I was an LCL fan going home after that. I'd be very, very quiet and not mention it ever again for the rest of the season. But, and you know, I'm sure the players at the end of it sat back and went, "How the heck did we win that?"
Yeah,
That's
I mean,
it goes, unfortunately. But you know, yeah, I think we were absolutely brilliant. And of course, there's still things to work on. There's still, you know, I don't think we should have been letting them in for that second goal, but we're not perfect. Football's not perfect, is it? I don't think there's anything Minami could have done about the goal. She has to put something on it, because she's got, I think it was Goodwin sitting on her shoulder there, who was going to tap it in if she didn't. So she has to put her foot out there. And like I say, 99 times out of 100, that goes over the bar, it goes over her head, it goes into the stand, it goes everywhere. But on this occasion, it goes into the goal, and it's just like, nah, what can you do about it? It's just our luck this season. We don't seem to have much luck this season. Everything that can go against us does. The refereeing decisions were, I'm not going to say it, but
we'll have a chat about
We'll
them.
come to that.
I think you guys are going to turn on me.
Well, you know,
I
think that there were several big decisions that technically she kind of got right, but in the moment, I don't know how she got it right. Because in the moment, with what she had to look at and what she had to see, that's a penalty and a red card.
Yeah.
Simple as that. The first one wasn't a penalty. It wasn't inside the box. No. But she was definitely pulled down, and that's a red card. And should have been a free kick on the edge of the box. And the second one probably might have got half a toe to it, but there's no way from that distance, from that angle, you see that as a referee. You've called that and gone chickening out, not giving it.
Yeah. To be honest with you, I mean, I'm going to bury the lead here, but that was kind of exactly my thoughts. Is that, yeah, I think if you watch them, in watching them, I'm okay with the decisions, but I don't know that the decisions were made for the right reasons. I think you hit the nail on the head there, to be honest with you. Yeah. And also, I think Brighton seem to be a team where we'll have 10, 12, 15 of those a season, and none of them get called for us. Whereas other teams will have 10, 12, 15 of them, and they'll get 5 called for them, or 8 called for them, or, you know, where they're like, oh, could look at it either way or whatever. We always seem to, when the referee looks at it either way for us, it always seems to be nah. Yeah. But other teams, it's like, I think that was
and it seems to happen a lot to Maddie. Maddie gets pulled over a lot, kicked, and, you know, if her name was Olivia Smith, I think the headlines would be much, much different. But, you know, unfortunately, she plays for Brighton, so nobody really cares. But she was absolutely covered in mud from sliding on the floor and being battered over, knocked over, kicked over. And you just, you know, at some point, these referees need to up their game, because it's spoiling the game, really.
Yeah, absolutely. I must admit, I was saying to my daughter, I wouldn't have minded Maddie's match-worn shirt for that game, because that would have been a proper muddy affair, wouldn't it? You know, I was thinking match-worn shirt. They're always fantastic, and thank you to Tim for giving one away on the Everton coach, which, funnily enough, I won, ladies and gentlemen. Not a fix. Hashtag not a
fix.
Hashtag not a fix. But yeah, it's always worth it if it's always worth a little bit more if it's got a little scuff on it, a little bit of mud or a little tear, or, you know, you can point to a moment in the game where they did that or whatever, you know. So
that one's got half a Broadfield on it.
Exactly. Yeah. She was basically mopping Broadfield up, I think, half the time. So yeah, I mean, she always gives it her all, and I think there is this kind of maybe a sort of preconception that she's very robust. So, you know, if she sort of falls over, then that must be her falling over rather than them taking her down, sort of thing. And I think that's not fair by any stretch of the imagination. So, you know, hopefully, you know, the refereeing standard needs to be improved, doesn't it? And we need to stop this going into games with, you know, like we've said before, this preconceived notion of certain players, i.e., this player's aggressive, so we can't book her early, or this player's weak, so she's going to fall over every 5 seconds, and all this sort of stuff. It has to be refereed.
Yeah, and I think it was the same thing as well. It's the lines people as well for me. The guy who was over on your side, I don't think he made a decision of his own the whole game. He sat and waited and just looked at the ref every single time, and then his arm went up. And it's just
yours flagged a couple of times.
Yeah, our side went up a few times. But that's him on that side. It was just embarrassing. He's got a clear view of everything, and he doesn't want to put his flag up and say, might have been a free kick there, might have been a penalty there, ref. Might want to have a little word at least. But
But no, there we go. Well, Ben, I think we've talked about the game. I mean, I think Aby and Claire pretty much summed it up. There's probably not a lot more you can say in terms of the the positivity around the sort of performance. So I'll let you take us through the opening goal, which was scored by Kiko Seiki.
Yeah. Well, I mean, actually, I would just a brief sort of that summary. That I don't want to get too technical. I mean, some of the younger listeners might not understand the terminology and stuff, but London City Lionesses were toilet. They were absolutely toilet. And,
I mean, I was being polite, Ben.
Ben with the bad language.
Fans being shitty about the opposition fans.
If I was an LCL fan, I'd be basically writing to the FA saying, "Can we give those 3 points back?" That was just embarrassing. And look at the amount of money that was running around on the pitch there as well. Yeah, guys like Sengari on loan from Lyon, and Linari, and all these sort of mega stars they've spent all these billions on, and then Grace Giora comes on for the second half and all that kind of stuff. It's like they couldn't play football. They were terrible. They were rubbish. They were embarrassing. They weren't even parking the bus. They were just standing around. I mean, trying to go on to the second goal before we go on to the first one. Basically, before what's the name? Freya Godfrey scored crossed that one that Moeka unfortunately rebounded in. Basically, her sole contribution to the game before that was a spectacular nutmeg from Yeli Chankovic, and that was the only time you'd notice you knew she was on the pitch, because she stood there with her feet wide apart and Yeli just ran through them. They were absolutely toilet, and I'm well, I'm trying to keep my language down because this is a family show, but they were terrible. I want to see them relegated for that.
Yeah.
But and we were really good. We were so good. Just those two things. It was a bit like Villa a couple of weeks ago, isn't it? That we dominated Villa, and there was that 90-second period where they scored 2 goals and we just couldn't come back from it. So it's the same again. Just two. I mean, obviously Freya Godfrey's a really good player. I mean, they're all individually really good players. You don't let Freya Godfrey do that. But anyway, back to the positive stuff. Yeah, we should have been 3-0 up after about 5 minutes, because we were just all over them from the start. And I think there was a certain feeling that they wanted to win it for Rado. But we took till the 22nd minute. But Charlie again had a really great game, didn't she? Basically won the ball, took it past almost like through Poppy.
I think she bashed Poppy off the ball.
Yeah, and then nutmegged her.
Yeah.
And then she plays a lovely ball into the box. And sort of Kiko and Maddie are both going after it. And obviously, they when they're close together, they communicate so well together. Maddie back heels it. And then Kiko's obviously been watching Maisie. Beautiful outside of the right foot, top left-hand corner. Beautiful goal. It was really, that was goal of the month contender, I think. Really, really, really nice goal. And we just thought, well, here we go.
I think the thing that I thought about that is, obviously we've spoken before about the kind of connection between Maddie and Kiko, and they seem to work quite well. I just think when they're sort of separated by one's in the middle and one's far out wide, whoever it may be, because it's been at times this season, different people in different positions and stuff. It sort of again makes me want them to just try and play 2 forwards in the middle, because their link up does seem really good, but often they're just, by the time Kiko's got in a position to get it to Maddie's got 2-3 players around her. nibbling at her heels and pushing her forward. And you know, sometimes Maddie will get the ball near their area and she'll almost have to bring it back to our halfway line because they're just pushing and shoving and not letting her turn, and you know, all that sort of business. So that I think there's that element to it as well. The one thing I thought with Kiko, which is, you know, I don't know what I find, I don't think frustrating is not the right word, because it's not, I wouldn't say like the crowd are like getting on her back or anything. What I sometimes find, let's say, puzzling with her is she scored that goal, and that is a beautiful outside the foot finish, but she had 2-3 other chances which were probably easier, especially the one in the second half where she puts it into the side netting, where, I mean, I can't believe she didn't get it on target. I mean, it was probably 50-50 if it had been on target, whether it would have gone in or not, because she was so close to the goal. And I think that's probably that's where we feel that almost lack of a striker is. If Kiko is doing that, you know, 5, 6, 7 times a season, that sort of goal, that's great. And then you want someone on the other side who's maybe, you know, maybe it's Ulaug, you know, with 4 or 5 of the same, and then you need someone in the middle to be a consistent goal scorer, because I don't, for whatever reason, I don't know if Kiko is quite precise enough with her finishing to kind of be a real elite level goal scorer. And I think with Maddie, I don't know what, I don't feel like she fits as a striker. She feels like someone who plays slightly deeper and is able to get on the ball a little bit more. So, you know, we're kind of circular way back to the kind of striker issue. But I mean, what do you think, Ben? Do you think Kiko, let's say we don't sign another striker. I know hypothetically we have, although we've loaned her back out. Would you like to see maybe Kiko given a go up front, given as she's the one who's actually sort of scoring a bit more regularly? Or do you think it is kind of, we'd lose something down that right hand side if she wasn't there?
I think we would. I think we'd you know, because when my old saying, when Kiko is Kiko, she really is Kiko. And I don't think anyone does Kiko like Kiko does. So if we decided to put her down, you know, running up and down the middle, she's not really physical enough to you know, I mean, Maddie, you know, the stats, I mean, I don't know how representative or how true these are of, you know, whoever collects official stats, but according to the stats on the BBC, if you click on the players now, you come up with a number of passes, that kind of stuff. Maddie wasn't fouled at all on Sunday, according to those stats. But she I mean, yeah. But I think, you know, but I think if we can't sign a number 9 and we have to play with the 2 of them, like we did at Leicester and a bit like we did on Sunday, where they're a pair because they work off each other and they, you know, and that kind of stuff. And, you know, obviously, I mean, Maddie is strong, but also pretty quick, but Kiko is very quick. And you know, they have developed a sort of really good relationship together. So when they're close together, they create a lot. But yeah, again, I just get my little Carla Camacho fan club flag out and just say, why don't we put her up the middle and see how? Maybe the first half, and if it doesn't work, if she hasn't got, you know, obviously she is still quite inexperienced, and if it turns out she's not experienced enough to play up front against West Ham, then maybe we'll take her off at half time or something. But yeah, I think Kiko needs to be left to do Kiko because she's the best of the world at that at the moment. I think.
Yeah, I suppose it's pulled into focus by the fact that we need goals from somewhere. So if she's a bit profligate, it's sort of like, if she's not banging them in right, left, and centre, then where are our goals going to come from? But that's almost not a Kiko problem in some ways, you know, because are we really expecting her to score 10 plus goals from right wing? Yeah, exactly. You know, she's got her own kind of job to do. So yeah, that's interesting. So we'll come on to, I think we might as well talk about their 2 goals almost kind of in a collective, because obviously they were quite similar in terms they get down the right hand side. It's Freya Godfrey and it ends up in the back of the net. So Aby, what did you make of their goals, I think I'm going to refer back to my post-match press conference notes, because I did speak to Chris Roberts afterwards, which is a nice little perk nowadays of being involved with SheGulls, is we get to go in the post-match press conferences, and he did describe the goals as very preventable. That was the quote, very preventable. So what's your take on that, Aby?
I would agree with him. Also, if you listen to his sort of like post-match interview, he very much says, we know they're good at a counter-attack and we weren't prepared enough. And I think that was, to echo what Ben said, it was probably the only thing they did well, apart from standing around in their own box in the second half, is that they can move forward very, very quickly. And that's when they do look good. And that's what caught us out both times, that they just went up. And very nearly a third time, if it wasn't for Yeli Chankovic. Thank you. But, you know, it's like the game, you know, 99 times out of 100, we're going to win that game. 9 times out of 10, that ball pings off Meki's foot into a completely different direction. It just goes in there. Mother and I last night were half watching the highlights, and Mum went, "Oh, that was a beautiful goal." And I went, "Yes, it's the wrong net,
wrong end."
I just like, "Oh, yeah." And it just is that, you know, if she doesn't get to it, then Izzy Goodwin does, and Izzy Goodwin puts it away. So sadly, I think it was going to be a goal either way, and we can't look at one player and go, "It was your fault."
Oh no, no.
You know, everybody. And I know we're not, because we chatted about it after the game. But you know, I just hope, you know, there are no fans around going, "Oh, you know, she scored an own goal, waggly finger." There was nothing more she could have done with that.
No,
you know.
You're running on instinct, aren't you?
Unless she suddenly acquired the force and could like move it out the way. But you know that we have to be better at responding to that quick counter, because again, I think that's, you know, what happened at Villa. Something happens very quick, you know, quick succession, and bang, we're two goals down. That was the same here. You know, they suddenly moved up the pitch very, very quickly. We were scrabbling to get back. Minami got to it, but if she didn't, then you know, Izzy Goodwin would have done. But no, I think Chris is probably very right in that they were both. You could see them coming as we were sat on the you know, watching it go on. You could just see that coming almost before it happened. But yeah, let's you know, like with Caitlin, where she was it? No, it was
against Chelsea.
Caitlin. Yeah. You know, if she hadn't have done something, Sam Kerr would have scored. You know, the same here. If our defender hadn't have done something, they would have scored. But yeah, I think it says a lot that they had, you know, 2 chances, they got 2 goals, and we had to score one of them for them.
Exactly.
But that's the only 2 real attacking moves that they actually had, and it's just sad that we you know, our defense that has been so good up until now just weren't reacting quick enough this time.
Yeah, and weirdly, you know, they were very good in this game, except for those 2 minutes, because those 2 incidents, because, like we say, you know, they restricted a team that's had millions of pounds spent on it to basically nothing. Isabel Goodwin's sole contribution was she played a very short sideways pass, which I think was part of the second goal, the first or the second goal. She held the ball slightly at the halfway line and passed it sideways, and that was literally the only contribution she made the whole game. So they did really well to sort of lock her down, you know, especially because, you know, she's used as kind of like a target player, you know, either to score the goals or to hold the ball up to bring other players, you know, forward and stuff. So I thought we dealt with her incredibly well. With Minami, it's one of those horrendous situations where, you know, if she scuffs that, or if she just wafts a foot at it and gets a tiny touch on it, it doesn't go in, and it just goes out for a throw or a corner, and no, you know, no one's any the sort of wiser, as it were. But she almost gets to it so well that she kind of strikes it almost like, You know, and like you say, slightly lower connection, it balloons over the bar. You know, slightly earlier connection, it goes.
It was a left foot actually.
Yeah, so I mean,
which is
you
not
know,
her best foot.
I think in those moments, I like to try and like, you know, I haven't played football since I was a kid, but I just remember in those moments, even at that age, that you don't necessarily have time to assess. You have to react. And I think that's all she did. Was she saw the ball coming across, she knew she had a player behind her, she tries to get to the ball, she gets to it very, very well, and unfortunately it ends up back in the, you know, back in the back of the net. But I think the issue for me, and probably the issue for Chris, is the fact that it was from a preventable situation. You know, they break, get down the right hand side, and then not only that, but then the second goal is basically the build up is exactly the same. They get down our right hand side, and obviously, you know, they score the second one. Claire, do you want to take us through the, you know, obviously I've kind of covered how they get there, but talk a little bit about the second goal, how that comes
like
about.
you say, we've had all the ball, we've had all the attack, we hit the post, and then bang,
Twice.
they whack the ball up the other end of the pitch.
Godfrey, yeah.
She kind of brings it inside, I think it's Mo Ollie's Lagers, and then just hits it with her left foot into the corner, and you're just like, what can you do about that? But I think it's this thing of, for some reason, at every game we've played this season, there is a point where they all drop off focus. They all just drop off at the same time, as though something's like switched in them that's gone, we can have 2 minutes here to not do anything. And then boom, we get a goal against us, and then boom, there's another goal against us, and you're like, hang on, what happened there? What happened there? It's happened so many times. And I don't know whether it's because we were so dominant that we were just almost lost in the idea of like, we're winning this. Like we you know what I mean? We're winning this, doesn't matter. I don't know. But like you say, LCL came there with the full expectation they were going to do absolutely nothing and just try and hit us on the break. And if they got something, they got something. And if they didn't, they'd have took a draw. That's what they came with. And, you know, we should have, like I say, we should have been 5-0 up, 3-0 up by 20 minutes, like Ben said. But it just wasn't one of those games because I don't think we have that striker up front. And that for me is the biggest issue we've had this whole season, is we don't have that person that is going to knock in 10, 15 goals. You know, I think Kiko is scoring exactly the amount of goals she should be scoring from that position. That's what we need. We should be having that from our outer players, you know, from the attacking side. They should be scoring 5, 6, 7 goals. But we should have somebody in that number 9 slot that's getting 10. And that's a massive problem for us. As well as, like I say, this little bit of like just 2-3 minutes where we just drop off focus. And it always is costly every single time.
I don't know if with the second goal, I think it almost seemed like frustration because, I mean, they'd scored their first one on 35 minutes. 40 minutes, Maddie hits the post. 45 minutes, you know, with a stroke of half time, the board had just gone up, saying like 2 minutes, whatever it was. Nadine gets in a really good position, lovely shot across the face of the goal, hits the other post, and then 21 seconds later, it's in the back of our neck, back of our net. Sorry, and I think that it was like, will it go in? And then suddenly, whoosh, they've gone. That's what it almost felt like. Well, that's how I felt anyway.
Yeah, and we were just on the back foot at that point because you're almost like, it's almost like you say everyone stopped because they thought that was a goal. Yeah. And then it wasn't. And everyone went, oh, hang on, and then it's all like, you know, running to get back.
But it was just really frustrating because they were really negative and also rubbish. I mean, I don't think they even had a game plan.
Was the word you used, Ben? Toilet.
I don't think they even had a game plan. I think they just turned up. They didn't come to park the bus. That's just all they had at the end of the day. But yeah, I mean, half time, our XG was 0.59. Theirs was 0.12. But somehow they were 2-1 up. It's like, it's just, sometimes, as Chris Roberts said, football can be cruel.
Yeah, very true, very true. Yeah, it's funny actually, Claire, that you said about sort of like dropping off, because I actually was thinking of kind of like the other meaning, you know, of that, which is I find that we're quite we're not very aggressive when we're being attacked. We like to jockey. Oh, you've had a shot wide. Oh, that's all right. With the second goal, I'd need to see it again. I've only seen it 2 or 3 times. What it looked like to me is Freya Godfrey gets in front of Manu. Marissa's chasing back, and Manu effectively says, "You take Godfrey, and I'll drop back. You know, that's your player now." But then Marissa, I think, is so knackered from running back, because obviously Godfrey is a good deal quicker than Marissa. You know, Marissa's not slow, but she's
and also Godfrey
range.
has done absolutely nothing else for the whole game. So
exactly, so she's fresh.
Yeah.
And then what happens is when Godfrey then cuts inside, Marissa's totally done. She's got no recovery ability at that point. And then obviously that allows her to get the shot away, which is an incredible shot. And that is the difference between, say, us and London City, is that if you have those kind of like those players that cost you $500,000 or come from the Arsenal Academy or blah, 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 you don't necessarily have to play well if one of your star players can just pick the ball up and ping it in the corner of the net from 25 yards out. And that is a difficult thing to swallow as a team who I think we pride ourselves on our teamwork. We have got some individual stars, but really what we're trying to do is be the sum of our parts. London City at the moment are I think, like we all kind of agree, 11 individuals. The problem is occasionally one of them is those 11 individuals does something really good, you know, and that was basically that plus a defensive, you know, it's not a defensive error, but, you know, an own goal. Let's just call it an own goal. That means we lose the game. One moment of magic, one moment of unluckiness, and everything else we did, everything else good. All the passes, all the touches in the box, all the shots, all the hit in the post, don't matter. And that's an issue that we have to deal with because we are Brighton. We work a certain way with our team. They are London City, and we know the way that they work, which is basically just buy everything that moves, you know, that they can get their hands on, essentially. You know, and actually, I guess you could say it worked because they got the 3 points. But I do think they will find it really tough to ever sustain, you know, a challenge to the top 4, which is obviously where they want to be, especially spending that kind of money. If they don't build some semblance of teamwork, because it really did honestly feel like they never met each other, you know, whereas we were the opposite. We were the ultimate team. You know, we were getting our passes on target. There weren't these silly ones played out of play that we've had in you know, 6-7 games ago. We were connecting with our passes. We were, you know, the interplay was great. The movement was back. That's something I would say in the last few weeks is, you know, we were sort of like screaming at them saying like, where's the movement earlier in the season? Now you're seeing players move. And I think Yele, you know, it was a great point about Yele. I think she drives a lot of that because she is like a Duracell bunny. You know, she's here, there, and everywhere. So it encourages other people to move, even if they just have to move out of her way.
I think also as well, I think she is the aggression in the team as well.
Yes,
because I think you're right. I think you said earlier about, you know, there's not this aggressive kind of defensive thing, but I think our whole midfield isn't aggressive either until Yeli's back on the pitch, and then suddenly she's nipping at ankles and she's getting in people's ways and she's causing problems. And she's not afraid to take a card for the team if that's what's needed, you know, whereas everybody else is kind of, it's almost like they want to shake hands with the other person sometimes and be like, oh, sorry, I've took the ball off you. Just, I want to see some sliding tackles. I want to see you get, I'd rather someone got sent off for doing a tackle that needed to be done, not obviously deliberately to hurt anyone, but, you know, if a referee makes a bad decision and sends them off, I'd rather that happen than we just keep letting them run on past us. Just take the ball. Like, they're not frightened to do that to us.
No, exactly. And I mean, the case in point, you know, we talked about, you know, the kind of the 2 goals that happened at Aston Villa. One of those is Kirsty Hansen, where we're backing off her. And then we're like, oh, she scored.
Yeah.
Oh, it's like, well, funnily enough, if you don't put any pressure on someone who's going to shoot and they're a good player, you know, which, you know, Aston Villa not blessed with as many as London City, you know, although they're a better team. but you can't be shocked when a player like Freya Godfrey or Kirsty Hansen or whoever it may be puts one in the top corner if they feel like they've got time and space to do so. You know, it wasn't like they sort of dribbled it round half our team and stuck it in the corner or anything. They kind of stood, moved the ball to their preferred foot, and then hit it in the top corner. And no one was diving in front of it. No one was, no one was striking. Is that where we miss Caitlin, perhaps? Maybe. You know, with her torpedo headers and, that kind of do or die mentality is missing a little bit. And I do think Yelena brings that, although obviously she has to, she's got to kind of also keep that good first touch, good skill. She kind of needs to keep it all ticking over. But I do think you're right that when she plays, we look a lot more of an aggressive team, especially going forward. And I think maybe we could do with a bit of that at the back.
Well, I think, if you look at all of the games over this last season and a half where you would come away and go, didn't matter what the score was, we played bloody well. Like, we were on form. Every single one of those games is when we've harried, pressured, got to the ball first, made a nuisance of ourselves, made those tackles, and made it uncomfortable for the other team to play us. We didn't just beat Arsenal 4-2 last season because Arsenal didn't turn up. We beat them because we beat them. We played their game and we beat them to every single ball, and we made sure we won that game. And we've done that in so many games now. And sometimes it wins for us, sometimes it doesn't. But the times where we don't do it, you're guaranteed we don't win.
Yeah, and there's a very good point in the comments to say that, Brighton were quite aggressive in the press. And I think that, to me, that kind of makes it seem all the weirder that when they get the ball down our end, we're quite negative in pressing. We're quite risk averse. We essentially, what I would say is there's a conscious decision not to dive in, not to commit on the basis of you could then essentially get taken out of the game, and therefore you're not around to recover, you're not around to, and like I say, I think if you watch that second goal again, there's very much a sense maybe from Manu, and it's not her fault, this will be how they're trained to deal with it, of Marissa, you've got back. So she is now your player. I have to go and do my other centre back duties, which is make sure she doesn't pass it to another defender. And I think that was where, then like I say, Marissa, I think, is obviously fatigued from having to leather it back to catch up with Freya Godfrey. So that when Freya Godfrey just moves it inside, Mo is just not. She's a bit on her toes, sort of thing. Is
that an argument though for Mo to maybe get rested, because she's played every game? I think. I think she's played every
there's an argument for that,
and it's she does a lot of running.
She does. She absolutely does. Absolutely. And it might have to be an argument sometimes for making a decision against certain teams with certain players that she doesn't play as high up the pitch or go as high up the pitch. Ultimately, if we're playing a front three, she shouldn't really have to be an attacker. She should only really have to be a midfielder and a defender. And I did think we did quite well a few times with overloading the sides. I think that's obviously something they like to do. But if the player that you're kind of responsible for is someone who's very quick or very skillful in particular, we saw it, Tony Payne was getting down that left-hand side for Everton. Sometimes you might have to go, look, we're getting exposed down there. What do we do to combat that? Does Marissa stay a bit deeper? Does someone cover Marissa when Marissa goes forward? Does someone come out from midfield to cover her or something? Because that's 2 games in a row. Admittedly, Everton, obviously we won, but if they'd had a striker, that could have been a different game because, but on both occasions, we were getting sort of roasted down that our left-hand side. But yeah, it's just I can't say enough good things about the game and the team in general, other than the fact that we just didn't get the 3 points. And I think that's just, you could tell from, I don't know if you guys saw Maisie's sort of post-match press conference.
Yeah.
But you kind of felt that exuding from her. She was being asked sort of about the performance and the result and things like that. And, she was almost like at a bit of a loss for words in terms of like, I don't really know how to say that we played incredibly, but we didn't win.
Yeah.
She didn't really look like she could find a reason that they didn't somehow take all 3 points. So I thought that was quite interesting.
Well, watching the game back today, I can't believe we didn't win.
Well, yeah, exactly. So for the players, it's even more so, isn't it?
I'll tell you one reason we didn't win. The ref.
Okay. We're going to have it out.
Well, again, like I said, according to these stats, again, I don't know if they're the stats, but according to the BBC stats, Maddie was not fouled at all.
Yeah, I mean, that's ridiculous.
And she was kicked all over the place. And, I mean, Elena Lenari, for instance, just chipping at her all the time, just chipping. And again, I mean, Kosovari Aslani was like that on Maisie. And when Aslani went off, Rodar took over, just kicking at Maisie, kicking at her. And the ref was watching this happen and playing advantage. But then because she played advantage, she wasn't going back and talking to whoever it was that had done it and warning them, or maybe even booking them. But yeah, I mean, that specific one where, Poppy passes it back to Linari and she sort of takes her off the ball. It goes under her foot. Maddie's in there like a shot, running in on goal. And Linari takes her out, basically. And everyone's like, oh, yeah, look, she got the ball. But, like, it doesn't matter if you got the ball if you scythed your way through the player to get to it.
Yeah.
You're not allowed to do that, particularly from behind. So, as Claire said, I think, for me, it was literally that far outside the box. So it wasn't a penalty, which means it should have been a red card. But apparently I didn't see at the time. Well, actually, when you watch it back, the ref is standing in the centre circle, so she's miles away from it. But apparently she put her whistle to her lips and then took it out again. And I think she bottled it because she knew that if she gave a foul, that was a dog zone, it had to be a red card. So she bottled it. And it's ironically, today is the anniversary of Maisie-gate, where she was sent off against Palace, where in the first half, the ref did exactly the same thing. Whether she did give the foul and she booked the Palace keeper, or she should have sent her off, but she bottled it because she didn't want to send the player off. And again, like we said, the ref, maybe they get the decisions right here. And I think the second penalty shout that we had is right, because you can see Poppy does get her toe on the ball and then Maddie trips over her foot. So that was a good interception sort of thing. But it's all very well getting decisions right, but if you can't make the big decisions, then you shouldn't be doing it. And that was a big decision to make. But in not making the decision, you're making the wrong decision.
Yeah.
You're bottling out of making a big decision, and then you're making the wrong big decision. Because like I said, the Palace keeper should have been sent off. She basically wiped Keats out. A year ago today. Happy birthday, Skipper.
Yeah,
happy birthday today. It was the Palace keeper should have been sent off. Wiped out Keats completely. Denial of an obvious goal scoring opportunity. Red card, and she gave her a yellow. And yesterday, I think the ref just went, "Oh, that was a foul," and then went, "Oh no, but if it was a foul, I'll have to send off the London City defender. I don't want to send any players off, so I'll let it go."
Yeah, and like you say, Ben, she's in the centre circle. Whether Poppy touches that ball or not, she can't see that. She can't see that from where she's standing. She can't make that decision.
Yeah,
she has to go with that defender has brought the player down. She has to.
But then maybe the lino did say. Maybe the lino saw it. You never know. It should have done.
Then they should come out and have to give a report afterwards to explain why.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. That I think would help a lot in the WSL where there is no VAR. Is I think people would appreciate the context behind the decision. I actually lean towards it being a fair challenge. I know that's going to get pinched.
You're not allowed to do that now, Duncan. You know that.
I know. I've seen it from front on, and she does get in from the side, and she doesn't really get much of Maddie until after she's touched the ball. But that's me. But
she goes through Maddie. Basically, that's That's the thing. You can't go through the player. Doesn't matter if you get the ball first or the player first. Whatever.
She gets her foot across, though. That's my thing. Is she gets her foot? Her body would have had to have gone through Maddie, but she gets her foot across.
But her left leg takes Maddie out. That's the thing. That's
but as she plays the ball, well, I mean, we could argue back and forth for ages on this, but personally, that's the sort of one where if a Brighton player did it, I'd be like, that was a bloody good tackle.
But it's
don't you dare give us a red card.
Like you said, though, this is just another one. It's like, again, the anniversary of Papaski not getting sent off. It's Togo against Toga.
Yeah.
Koga
for Tottenham, diving on the ball and taking out Jankovic. We never get every single time there's any benefit of the doubt given by anybody. Every time there's a wrong decision made, it's always against us.
Yeah.
And I don't want to sound like a victim here because but it is. We never get those. And it's
one of the things. One of the things I noticed they're doing, and you mentioned this, is a lot of these refs are now playing advantage, which is absolutely fine, but they're not stopping and going back if that advantage doesn't come to anything.
Yeah.
And they're not going back and talking to the players. So the players are just like, oh, thank you very much, got away with that.
Yeah.
And then they're just getting on with it. They should, after that phase of play is finished, they should be going back and at least having a word to the player going, next time it's a yellow card, or don't do this, or waggly finger, or whatever. But they're not doing that. They're just playing advantage, and that's that. And there was something on Sunday. She played advantage, and I was like, okay, fine, not a problem. But very quickly it stopped, and nothing happened.
And then that's it. Yeah, exactly.
And you're allowed a few seconds to roll it back. Annoying.
Yeah, I mean, you can understand it if, because I mean, the archetypal one is you get fouled just before and then the player next to you shoots. Now that you can understand because they've played advantage, a shot's happened. If it went in, you'd want the goal, right? So fair enough. But yeah, if you're being pulled, say, and you dribble it 2 or 3 meters in front of you, and then someone nicks it off you, then to me, what advantage have you gained? You've not. So roll it back. Like you don't want to see it. It's not. You don't want it like rugby where they just go on and on and on and then come back. You don't need to do that. But like you say, sometimes they'll almost lose the ball instantly after advantage is given, and then it's like, well, you had the advantage. Well, no, I didn't, because I should be in a position of benefit. So if I get tackled, then it should get rolled back. But it's almost like, well, no, because you didn't fall over or whatever, or you didn't, then you had the advantage and then you lost it. So oh dear. That's
and
it.
This is why as well, like the men's game is so full of people falling over like they've been shot and rolling over.
Yeah.
Because they learned that unless they do that, the referee will not give them any benefit. So they've learned that. And unfortunately, that's going to come into the women's game at some point. We're already seeing it with certain players. They roll around all over the place like they've been broken in half. But if that's the only way you get the referee to show some attention to something, a behaviour, and you get a free kick, that's what's going to keep happening.
Yeah. Actually, another one on Linara, and this is another thing that's annoying me in the game now as well, because it could partly because of the inconsistency. Is Linari? I mean, I don't think it was deliberate. There was a high ball, and Maddie and Linari both went up for it, and Linari nutted Maddie in the back of the head. That's a foul. She didn't use her boot; she used her head, but that's a foul. I mean, Brighton boys actually got a penalty on that. Was it last season? Somebody, I think it was a Chelsea defender, nutted João Pedro.
I think it might have been Arsenal, actually. I think it might have been Gabriel.
But if you go in with your head and you go in and miss the ball and hit their head, that's a foul.
That's a foul. Yeah, exactly.
It's like, we're getting London City away. Back in December. I've forgotten the name. Their Japanese midfielder. Completely forgotten her name. Basically, nutted Maisie, almost broke her nose. It was a foul, but I mean that was bookable because that was so late. But Kumagai, that's it.
Makes your blood boil, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Right. Before we've gone over the hour mark as is our want to do. So I'll just wrap it up very quickly by Ulaug made it onto the field. Hooray! So anyone want to chuck in a couple of nice words about Ulaug's debut?
She's lovely. I like her.
Well,
She likes her song, and she looks fairly robust. Yeah, sorry, Claire, carry on.
Yeah, no, I was going to say the same as you. I think, it was about time. We needed to see it, because we've had 2 games now where it's been a bit like, oh, we could just do with killing this off, and you've got attacking players on the bench and you're not bringing them on, utilising them. So it was good to see her come on. She got about a bit. Had a shot that was a bit wayward, but she was at least there to take a chance. And at the end she came over. She got her little Ollie 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 song. And I think we've got another couple to sing to us. So she was very happy about that. We spoke to her after the game. She was very excited to have got started. She was very happy to have already got a song. And it was really good.
Yeah, I mean, it was well, she was on the opposite side to me, so it was kind of hard to see. But she was, really getting stuck in, busy, a bit like a sort of Norwegian Jelly Chankovitz in a way, actually. And I mean, but again, it's one of those things. Like I said, like Carla came on in the 86th minute. She came on with like 20 minutes to go. It's kind of difficult to come into a game and really make a big difference when with that little time to go. So
absolutely.
I said, we all had a nice chat with her afterwards, didn't we? It was lovely, and so I said, next week you start. She's like, hope so. Good. Great stuff. Great fun.
I was very impressed with her corner that she took. I did ask. I did ask Chris about
the Maisie pass back to her as well. That was the...
Yeah. Yeah, I must admit, I do wonder if that's played a bit of a factor in them, bringing her in. Is that we have lacked for a long time, like a really accurate corner taker. I know they like Mo. They seem to like in-swing corners. I did ask Chris Roberts about that too. He said it's kind of horses for courses, but it does seem generally they like an in-swinging corner. And I thought the one she took was smack bang in the middle of the penalty area, which is where you want it if you're going to be developing game plans and stuff for corners and set pieces and stuff. So,
just need a 6-foot Irish woman to head it in, don't we? Really?
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. Or 6 foot any person at this point.
Well, we did have our goalkeeper up there at one point, which further contributed to my high blood pressure.
And
my Apple Watch
she did get her head to it. So you've got to say there was a chance there, and fantastic chance.
That says to me,
and said you're not getting up there now. You're not getting another one.
Yeah, that says to me that's how much they wanted to win that game, because normally you would only see that in a cup game. Where it's a win or go home. I don't think I've ever seen that in a league game, that you would put your goalkeeper up there. And to me, that says how much they wanted to win that, and how invested in it they were. And I'm really pleased to see that, because I think that's been lacking a few times. A couple of times I've almost felt like the team have gone, oh, we've lost, clap to the fans and never mind, so on. I like to see them hungry. And so on. And yes, they come over, they applaud the fans. They, both Chris and Maisie, complimented the fans and commented on them being there. It was slightly less than I would like to see for a home game. So, to anyone who was listening and watching from their sofa, get yourselves to Broadfield, and particularly because the next one is Arsenal at Broadfield, and it's 2:00 or 2:30. So there's no reason not to be there.
If we don't fill it, they will, unfortunately.
Exactly. I think even Mother's making an appearance for that one.
Yes.
So she'll be there. But we need to make this Fortress Broadfield again. And show.
And just a small reminder as well, listening fans, can we not jinx it by shouting abusive chants at the opposition, no matter how funny we think they are? It's just not necessary. Like, just support our players, support our team. Don't let the other team worry about what they're doing. We don't need to be shouting, "What's the score, Poppy," etc. An incentive to play better. Let's just not do it.
Because there's no bad blood with Poppy anyway. So
No. I think it just brings it down on the atmosphere section and the band, because people sitting around didn't particularly like it, would complain, and if they do, that's another complaint against the band that we just don't need. Everything's going well. Let's just keep the positivity. Let's keep it going upwards.
And also, a lot of the reason that many of us are attracted to the women's game rather than, going to the men's game is that there is a difference in the crowd. And I'm not saying one's better than the other, but I prefer how we are as fans at a women's game. I think it's a nicer atmosphere. It's one that I would bring, my young nieces and nephews to.
Well,
and I like
in
it
the
to
atmosphere
be
section, we're
positive and inclusive.
We're literally surrounded by parents and kids.
Yeah.
So we're trying to get those kids to be invested in and to start joining in. And a lot of them were joining in the chanting and banging drums and things like that. And they were getting excited. Let's keep that going. Let's that be the way forward. Let's support our team in the right way.
Sort of dragging it back to the players coming over and stuff after the game. We had a lovely chat with the skipper, didn't we? Happy birthday, skipper, again. Chris came and shook hands with everybody, didn't he? And a few, obviously, Olaug and Carla came past and stuff like that. But apparently, I didn't see Moeka, but she did say to somebody that she didn't think she had a good game today.
Yeah.
And I think that's because she felt really bad about the own goal.
Yeah.
So if anyone out there is listening and has got the ear of Moeka Minimi, stop it.
Yeah,
okay?
Absolutely.
All the best centre. I've said this about Kate in the Chelsea game.
I thought she was incredible the whole game. Other than that 1 second, and that wasn't even like her fault.
All the best central defenders score own goals. It's just a fact of life.
Yeah. She's had a fantastic.
That was a fantastic performance as always. So if anyone out there has got any sort of hotline to Moeka, tell her to shut up. She was brilliant. She was unlucky. She was fantastic. We love her. See you next week, kind of thing. I don't want any players coming off the field thinking they haven't given 110% because they all did.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I
think we've come to a nice positive conclusion there, haven't we? So we're all behind the team. We're all supportive of the team. Some good words to end on there. So this is going to be the end of part 1 of the SheGulls podcast. You'll be able to listen to part 2, where we're going to be previewing the game against West Ham and also talking a little bit about a new signing. So that'll be exciting. It's sort of exciting and perplexing in 2 different ways. So we shall. You'll have to listen to find out why.
Yes.
Ladies and gentlemen. So I shall say thank you very much to our co-hosts, and we will join you in part 2. Thank you and good night.
Good night, River.
Good night.
Good night.